Hi, welcome to this week's vlog, and we're going to spend some time looking at sales strategy this week. I spent all of my working career in either technical pre-sales, sales or sales management, and have seen both success and failure both in the design and implementation of sales strategies. Today we're going to look at some of the factors that impact a sales strategy and its success or failure. The areas we're going to focus on: long-term rather than short-term thinking, the intended and often unintended consequences of any pay plan you put in place, the fact that failure is inevitable, and people buying from people. So the first one of these, long-term rather than short-term planning. Most organisations generally adopt a political approach to strategy now, which is basically they set it over 3 years. The longest period is 3 years. But often, it's set over a single year, and that can really lead to problems when you're trying to implement things. Jeff Bezos, when he's congratulated on Amazon's current results, will quite regularly say the work for that started 3 years ago. And this is the same with anything that you would look to do in this space. You need to set things for a long term and then be able to adapt those as you're running through it. Effectively, planning should really be around a 5-year basis rather than anything else, and then you look and adapt to that based on market conditions. Obviously you need the ability to adapt. No one ever saw COVID coming, and I think obviously it played a huge role in kind of putting an impact on the strategies of most organisations, particularly where their people worked and what they were doing. The second is what I will call the intended and sometimes unintended consequences of pay plan. Before I start into this, a lot of people question whether pay plans actually provide the right kind of drive and motivators for your kind of people to get out there and put the products in front of customers. What I would say is this is a very big topic, so I'm not going to cover that today. I'll probably cover that during another vlog. But if we accept that pay plans exist, one of the things that we quite often see is that the kind of pay plans are set at a top level, which are focused on increasing either profit or revenue. Obviously, there are other things that mix into this. Some people kind of put different products in the mix, but profit or revenue are usually at the centre of any pay plan in any organisation. The plan will have been set to meet these objectives, and often you have to consider some of the unintended things that go with it. An example of this is where you've set the pay plan to sell the more profitable products, so people are encouraged towards that end of the scale. But what's missed then is there are some relatively low margin products that act as a real key gateway to get into organisations. And people are not selling those anymore. And over a longer term, perhaps a 2 or 3 year life cycle, you'll end up with less pipeline coming through, and you'll be sitting there wondering what on earth's gone on. So the key here is, when you're building a pay plan, is make sure you understand exactly what both the intended and unintended consequences are. Consider things all the way through and kind of run them over a long-term period rather than focusing on the short term. The next one's failure. And I kind of find this is quite an odd dynamic when you're talking to salespeople, because quite regularly people don't want to admit to failure. And ironically, I'm listening to a book now called Black Box Thinking, which talks about, even though things have gone wrong, people denying that actually it was actually caused by the strategy that they put in place. Cognitive dissonance is that, and again, that's probably something for discussion and in another vlog at some point in time. But if you listen to any of the kind of popular podcasts that go on, and also reading Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, which I think I've referred to before, but obviously it provides a good bedrock. One of the things you have to accept is that there is an inevitability in failure. You have to kind of work that, and what you need to do is accepting in an organisation that you will both win and lose. You need to take time to review both the wins and the losses and understand what you can do better coming out of that. So wins, what could you improve within the documentation, but also accepting the failures and carrying out a full review with the feedback from that review then implemented, or perhaps even a decision that you'll walk away from that business again. The last kind of one in my set of things for today is the fact that people buy from people. For all we say about marketing of products and all the other kind of bits and pieces that go with it, the sale of complex solutions to customers is very often about people relating to people. If you put two organisations against each other, same skill set, same everything else, it will be the people that lead the way. But very often it's the people within the organisation that are not the salespeople within an organisation that are very often not focused on from a kind of perspective of organisational development, business development, and allowing them to grow as people. I really like what Kim Scott says about this in Radical Candor, where she breaks people within teams into what she calls rock stars and superstars. Rock stars are the people who are the bedrock of your team. They don't necessarily want to move on in the organisation. They don't necessarily want another job. But what they do need is to be encouraged and grow within that role. So provide them with that framework in that. Superstars are your high flyers who ultimately will probably move away from your team, but you've got to give them those bounds to grow. Give them the opportunity to grow and strengthen their skills within the team. If you get this right, get the people right along with all the other elements, they will continue to provide for you, and those will be the things that drive the success within your organisation. So ultimately, the sales strategy that is set must relate to the people who must deliver it. The middle layers and layers of management are responsible for taking this and ensuring that teams can deliver the goals of the organisation. The key to this is ensuring you create a long-term strategy that people will buy into and stick to, a pay plan that is simple enough to hit the goals without giving any unintended consequences, the acceptance of failure as something that will occur, and also the thorough review processes for both wins and losses. And last but by no means least, investment in the development of the salespeople within your organisation. I'm really keen to hear what people think about this, so please either post in the comments below or get in touch to have an onward discussion if you want to talk about this from your team's perspective. And obviously, if you want to hear more on this channel, please subscribe. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.